Hi guys, welcome. I hope you are doing well. So today we are going to discuss about various growth laws. This video I have prepared based on your demand. You can follow me on Instagram or Telegram to get notifications related to our video lecture series. And you can also suggest me some topic on which we can make new video lectures. So let's start it. So before going to growth laws, we should understand what is a growth. So growth is an irreversible change in size of a cell or an organ or whole organism. So due to this growth, there is an increase in the living material. Living material is the protoplasmic material. So due to increase in protoplasmic material, there is cell division and cell enlargement. So basically remember, growth is an irreversible change in size and shape of a cell or a whole organism. So in earlier days, the growth was generally measured by the growth curve, or it was represented by the growth curve. Then what is that growth curve? So basically a growth curve, it is a curve between the dry weight, change in dry weight of a plant with respect to time. So if we'll plot the dry weight of a plant with respect to time, then the curve is known as growth curve. And generally the shape of the growth curve, it is a sigmoidal curve. So remember, the shape of a growth curve is sigmoidal. So this growth curve indicates the general pattern of growth of a plant, but it does not indicate the factors affecting the plant. For example, this growth curve will indicate whether the growth is increasing at an increasing rate, or growth is increasing at a decreasing rate, or growth is at a plateau, means at constant rate, or it is decreasing with time. So it will just represent the pattern of growth, whether it is increasing or it is stagnant or constant, or whether it is decreasing, but it will not give the true picture of growth factors. Which factors are affecting the growth? Which factors are responsible for increasing rate of growth? Which factors are responsible for decreasing rate of growth? So these things will not be represented by this growth curve. So that was the limitation of growth curve. So that's why the growth laws come across, and growth laws will represent the growth factors, and they will give a true picture of growth pattern of a plant. So in earlier concepts, the growth or the first growth law was the law of minimum. So here one question is that the law of minimum was first introduced by Liebig, Karl Sprengel, Mr. Leach, or Blackman. So here the correct answer of this question is Karl Sprengel. So Karl Sprengel was the first person to introduce the law of minimum. He introduced the concept of law of minimum in 1840. But later, the law of minimum was popularized by the Liebig. So that's why we know that it is the Liebig's law of minimum. But actual the concept of law of minimum was given by Karl Sprengel. So remember this question, whenever in option Karl Sprengel is there, we have to select the option Karl Sprengel, and when the option is not there, then we can select it is Liebig. Okay. So coming to Liebig's law of minimum, it says that the yield achievable is dictated by the nutrient that is the most limiting. So the Liebig's law of minimum is very popular. We all know what the Liebig's law of minimum says. So I will not take much time in that, but just I will give this example. The Liebig's concept of minimum, it is somewhat originated from this barrels concept. Okay, so in a barrel, when we'll store water inside a barrel, the level of water will depend the level of the sides. Okay, so here we can see, for example, here potassium is deficient, phosphorus is deficient, nitrogen is deficient, calcium is deficient, because the level of barrel that will contain the maximum water is this much. But this is the quantity of potassium deficiency, this is the quantity of phosphorus deficiency, this is the quantity of nitrogen deficiency. But Liebig's law of minimum says the quantity or the maximum level of water inside this barrel will depend on the potassium content. As long as the potassium content is not increased, if we will increase the phosphorus content, then the maximum water content inside water will not increase. It will be still here because excess water will be leaked out here. And even if we increase the nitrogen content to the maximum, but potassium is still there, then the most of the water will be removed or leaked out here. So Liebig's law of minimum depends. It says that the maximum water content inside this barrel, it will depend on the most limiting factor. Here the most limiting factor is the potassium. And when we filled all the potassium deficiency, suppose we have applied potassium and we have filled this gap, then here the next most limiting factor is nitrogen. So here the quantity of water that will be stored inside this barrel, it will depend on the nitrogen content. So it is very simple. Liebig's law of minimum. In Liebig's law of minimum, there are major three limitations for its application in the field of agriculture. The first major limitations of Liebig's law of minimum is that if there are several factors which are affecting the plant growth and yield, and none of the factors are too low, and we are applying one of the factor, then yield will definitely increase. So here the Liebig's law of minimum is not applicable. So I will explain the first limitation by giving a small example. For example, in the field, nitrogen deficiency is there, phosphorus deficiency is there, and potassium deficiency is there. Okay. For example, in field, 100 kg nitrogen is required for optimum plant growth and development. Similarly, 100 kg potassium, phosphorus, and 100 kg potassium. So this is required for optimum plant growth and development. Okay, but in field, 70 kg nitrogen is there, 80 kg phosphorus is there, and 85 kg potassium is there under field condition in our soil. So it means that these three factors, neither of these three factors are in minimum quantity. Okay, they are at low quantity, means as compared to their optimum quantity, they are at lower amount in the field. So under this condition, when we are applying phosphorus, suppose we are applying phosphorus, then definitely there will be a small yield increase. So here the Liebig's law of minimum is not applicable, because Liebig's law of minimum says that it is the most limiting factor is nitrogen here. So when we are not applying nitrogen, then yield will not increase. But here if we apply phosphorus or potassium, then small yield increase will be there. Means 100% yield achievable will not be there. Okay, optimum yield achievable will not be achieved, but small increase will be there in yield. So here the Liebig's law of minimum is not true. So that is the first limitation of Liebig's law of minimum. So here we'll write the first limitation of Liebig's law of minimum is if several factors are in low quantity, but none of them is too low. If several factors are in low quantity, but none of them is too low, then at this condition, applying any of the factor will definitely increase the yield. So that is the first limitation of Liebig's of minimum. So here we have three factors: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. The optimum dose of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium is 100, 100, 100. But under field condition, 70 kg nitrogen is there, 80 kg phosphorus is there, 85 kg potassium is there. Okay, so neither of the factor is at too low condition. So under this situation, if we apply any of the nutrient, then definitely yield increase will be there. So here it violates the law of minimum. Then coming to the next limitations of law of minimum, that is, it does not consider the interaction effect. Okay, it does not consider the nutrient interaction effect, because we know that under field condition there are several interactions between different nutrient elements. For example, phosphorus and zinc. If phosphorus contained inside a plant, suppose a plant is there, and suppose here it is the soil. Suppose inside the plant, phosphorus content is very high phosphorus content, and we know in plant phosphorus exists as phytate and this phytate has an ability to hold zinc or absorb zinc. Zinc phytate will be formed. So when zinc phytate will be formed, this will not be available to cell. Means at cellular level, zinc deficiency will be there. But in case of soil, sufficient quantity of zinc is present. Even if sufficient quantity of zinc is present in soil, plant is uptaking zinc, but still due to high phosphorus, which is binding with zinc, zinc's absorption will be reduced. So as a result, zinc deficiency will be there inside the plant. So here the Liebig's law of minimum does not hold good. It means here the zinc is not a limiting factor. Here the phosphorus toxicity is the limiting factor. So here zinc contained inside the soil is sufficient. If we test the soil, we will see the soil test report, then zinc quantity is sufficient, but still zinc deficiency is inside the plant. So it means due to excess phosphorus inside the plant, zinc is being deficient in the plant. So Liebig's law of minimum will not hold good in this case. The second limitation of Liebig's law of minimum is that it does not consider the interaction effect among different nutrient elements. Okay, so this is the second limitation. Then the third limitation of Liebig's law of minimum is that it is all about the nutrient element. Liebig's law of minimum says all about the nutrient elements. Then what about other factors? Other factors are also there. Other factors will definitely affect the plant growth. Those factors are like water, temperature, carbon dioxide. Okay, what about those factors? Liebig's law of minimum says only about the nutrient element. It says that the nutrient that is most limiting that will decide the yield level. But what about the other factors? Okay, so that is also a limitation of Liebig's law of minimum. So there are three major limitations of Liebig's law of minimum. That is, if all the nutrient elements or several factors are not present at too low condition, then applying any of the nutrient will definitely increase the yield. That is the first limitation. Second limitation is Liebig's law of minimum does not consider the effect of interaction among different nutrient elements. And the third limitation is the Liebig's law of minimum is all about the nutrient element only. It does not consider the other growth parameters or other growth factors. Then coming to next, that is law of optima and limited factor. It was given by Blackman in 1905. It was proposed to address the third limitation of Liebig's law of minimum. That is, Liebig's law of minimum is all about the nutrient element only. It is not about other external factors such as carbon dioxide, light, and temperature. So to address this issue, Blackman proposed this law of minimum, a law of optima and a limited factor. This is nothing, just an elaboration of law of minimum. So this law states that the growth factor or the growth process depends on various external factors, and the rate of this growth process is determined by the pace of the slowest factor. Okay, so it means the factor which has a very slow rate of reaction, so that will determine the rate of the whole growth process. So that is said by the law of optima and limited factor. This Blackman also introduced another term, that is Blackman's response. And Blackman's response indicate the concentration of carbon dioxide and the intensity of light at which there is an abrupt cessation in the rate of photosynthesis. So that is known as Blackman's response. So here Blackman included other external factors such as carbon dioxide, temperature, and light to describe a growth process or any process. Okay, then coming to next, that is law of diminishing return. The law of diminishing return was proposed by Mr. Lees in 1909. So law of diminishing return is nothing. This is just a quantitative elaboration of law of minimum. So remember, Mr. Lees was the first person to quantify the growth response, the relationship between the growth response and the growth factor. So the law of diminishing return, it quantifies it quantify the relationship between growth response and growth factors, and it was proposed by Mr. Lee. So to understand law of diminishing return, I'll give a small example. Suppose you are a mango lover. At once you can eat 10 mangoes. That is the A. For example, A is 10. It means maximum you can eat 10 mangoes at a time. There is a mango orchard in your village, and you went for stealing mango and eat by stealing. Okay, suppose you stole 2 mangoes. So here y is 2. So you stole 2 mangoes and you ate it. After that, the owner of that orchard came. Unfortunately, the owner of the orchard is your friend, and he told you you can eat as many as mangoes you can. Okay, so he offered unlimited mangoes to you. Now option is with you, how many mangoes you can eat. So suppose he offered mangoes to you, and now whatever mango you will eat, that will be the dy, change in mango. Okay, so that will be the extra mango that you will eat. So this dy will depend on the decrement of the maximum attainable mango eating. It means maximum mango that you can eat is 10. You have already eaten 2 mangoes. It means you at most you can eat 8 more mangoes. So here at most you can eat 8 more mangoes. So it means this dy depends on a minus y. Okay, simple thing. Whatever mango you will eat now, it will depend on a minus y. It means the difference between maximum mango that you can eat and the mango that you have already eaten, the difference will determine the mango that you will eat now. Okay, it is the same principle that will be applied under field condition. Okay, so the law of diminishing return by Mr. Lee says that the change in yield per unit change in x is directly proportional to, means it depends on the difference between the maximum attainable yield A and the yield that is already there. Okay, the term which defines this amount is known as yield decrement. Yield decrement. So the statement of Mr. Lee's law of diminishing return is the increase in yield per unit change in unit added will depend, or it depends on the decrement from the maximum attainable yield by increasing the particular growth factor. So I hope the concept of diminishing law of diminishing return by Mr. Lee is clear. It says that the change in yield per unit change in input is directly proportional to the yield decrement or the decrement of yield from the maximum possible yield. Okay, how it is related to that, I have given this small example. I hope it is clear now. So here the law of diminishing return by Mr. Lee can be divided into 2 laws. The first law is, remember, the law, Mr. Lee proposed 2 laws, that is law of physiological relationship, law of physiological relationship, and the second law is growth law and equation. Growth law and equation. So here the law of physiological relationship says that the yield can be increased by a single growth factor even if it is not present in minimum, as long as it is not in optimum condition. So the law of physiological relationship of Mr. Lee's law, it addresses the first limitations of Leibniz's law of minimum. So the first limitations of Leibniz's law of minimum was that if several growth factors are there, but they are not at too low condition, then if we are applying any of the nutrient, then the plant will respond. Okay, so here the law of physiological relationship addresses the first limitation of Leibniz's law of minimum. It says that if there are several plant growth factors are there and they are not in optimum condition, so even they are not in lowest condition, then if we will apply that growth factor, then plant will respond. So that is all about law of physiological relationship by the Mr. Lee. Then coming to next, that is growth law and equation. It just quantifies the relationship between growth response and the growth factor. We have already discussed that dy by dx, that is change in growth response per unit change in growth factor, is directly proportional to a minus y, that is yield decrement from the maximum achievable yield. So whenever we'll eliminate this sign of proportionality, then constant of proportionality will come. So here it will become dy by dx is equal to a minus y into c. Here the c is the proportionality constant, and Mr. Lee's called this proportionality constant as a factor. Okay, this is known as factor. So c is the Mr. Lee's constant. Okay, so remember this thing. Then coming to Speelman's equation, this Speelman also defined the relationship between growth response and the growth factor. He also quantified the growth response as according to the growth factor, and he gave the modified equation of Mr. Lee's law. Okay, so first we'll see the equation of Speelman. So the Speelman's equation says that y equal to m into 1 minus r to the power x. Okay, so here y is the yield or quantity of yield, m is the maximum achievable yield, and x is the quantity of growth factor. Okay, and r is the Speelman's constant. So here Speelman, what he did, he just combined his equation with the Mr. Lee's law of diminishing return, that is dy by dx is equal to a minus y into c. So he combined his equation with Mr. Lee's law of diminishing return, and he proposed a new equation, that is y equal to a into 1 minus 10 to the power minus cx. Okay, so from this we can see the value of r is 10 to the power minus c. So this is a very important question, that is what is the value of Speelman's constant. So value of Speelman's constant according to law of diminishing return, it is 10 to the power minus c. So remember this value. Okay, relationship between Speelman's constant and Mr. Lee's constant. Okay, so now we'll solve this to derive another modified version of Mr. Lee's law. So here we can write y is equal to a minus a into 10 to the power minus cx. Okay, so just arranging this will give us a minus y is equal to a into 10 to the power minus cx. Now taking log in both sides, it will be log a minus y is equal to log a into 10 to the power minus cx. Okay, so here it is log a plus log 10 to the power minus cx. So that will give us log a minus, this will come here, so that is minus cx log 10. And we know that the value of log 10 is 1. Okay, so it is only cx. So from this, now the equation is log a minus y is equal to log a minus cx. So this is the modified version of Mr. Lee's law. So if there is a question says that choose the correct equation of Mr. Lee's law, this equation will be there. This equation will also be there, and in C option, this equation will be there. then the correct answer will be all of these. Okay, these all of these equations are related to Mr. Lee's law of diminishing return. I hope the concept of Spearman equation and Mr. Lee's law of diminishing return is clear now.